Lewis Hamilton's second place in Canada was not just a podium. It was the moment Ferrari's biggest secret became impossible to hide. Because Hamilton did something Ferrari could not ignore. He stopped trusting the simulator, changed his preparation, studied the real data with his engineers, and suddenly delivered his best weekend in red. But across the garage, Charles Leclerc was living a nightmare. Same car, same track, same Ferrari badge. Hamilton was fighting Max Verstappen for second place, while Leclerc admitted it was one of the worst weekends of his entire Formula One career. That is not just a teammate gap. That is evidence. Evidence that the SF26 has hidden performance, but only if Ferrari finds the exact key. Evidence that the simulator may be pointing the team away from the real answer. Evidence that this car is not simply slow, it is narrow, fragile, and brutally hard to unlock. And now everything changes. Because if Hamilton found the solution by stepping outside Ferrari's normal system, then Maranello has a decision to make. Follow the 7-time world champion's method, even if it proves their trusted tools were wrong. Or protect the old process and risk wasting the fastest version of the SF26. Subscribe to the channel. Canada was supposed to give Ferrari confidence. Not just a good result, not just a few hopeful quotes, not just another weekend where the team could say the pace was somewhere inside the car if everything came together. Real confidence. The kind of confidence that changes the way a garage breathes because for the first time, the driver, the engineers, and the car all seem to be speaking the same language. And for Lewis Hamilton, Canada finally looked like that moment. He was not fighting the Ferrari in the same way. He was not chasing a balance that kept moving away from him. He was not stepping out of the car with the same careful frustration that had followed him through the early part of his time in red. He looked connected. That matters more than the result itself. Because second place is impressive, but the feeling behind it is the real story. Hamilton did not sound relieved just because he had scored a podium. He sounded relieved because he understood why the podium had happened. That is the difference. A random good result gives a team hope. A good result with a clear reason gives a team direction. And Ferrari has been desperate for direction, because the SF26 has not looked like a simple car. It has not behaved like a machine that gives the same answer every weekend to both drivers in every condition. It has shown speed, but not always usable speed. It has shown promise, but promise trapped behind narrow windows, braking uncertainty, tire sensitivity, and a preparation process that Hamilton clearly did not trust. That is why his second place in Canada is so important. It did not just put Ferrari on the podium. It exposed where the car might have been hiding its performance all along. But to understand why that matters, you have to start before Canada. You have to start with the decision that sounded almost impossible for a modern Ferrari driver. Hamilton walked away from the simulator, not forever in some dramatic public rebellion, but as a preparation tool for the next race, he made it clear that he needed a different approach. He said the simulator was taking him in the wrong direction. He said the connection between the simulator and the real track was broken. That is a massive statement, because in modern Formula One, the simulator is supposed to be one of the most trusted rooms in the entire factory. Is where teams test the race before the race exists. Is where drivers prepare for braking points, balance changes, tire behavior, and set up direction before the real car ever leaves the garage. The simulator is supposed to make the unknown smaller. Hamilton was saying it was making the unknown worse. And that changes everything. Because if the simulator is misleading the driver, then the problem is not only inside the car, is inside the way Ferrari is trying to understand the car. That is much more dangerous. A team can fix a wing. It can change suspension settings. It can adjust brake balance. It can bring a new floor, a new diffuser, a new rear wing. But if the tool that tells the team what direction to take is wrong, then every solution becomes uncertain. It is like using a map that shows the wrong streets. You can drive perfectly. You can follow every instruction. You can make no mistakes at all. But if the map is wrong, you still end up in the wrong place. That is what Hamilton seemed to feel before Canada. He was not saying Ferrari had no talent. He was not saying the engineers were not working. He was saying the preparation path was leading him away from the real answer. So he changed the path. Instead of relying on the simulator, he went deeper into real data. Direct work with engineers. Telemetry. Actual behavior from the real car. What the tires had done. What the rear had done. What the brakes had done. What the SF26 was telling him when it was not filtered through a virtual version. And in Canada, the car finally answered. From the first serious running, Hamilton looked more settled. The Ferrari seemed to give him something it had not given him consistently before. A platform. Not perfection. A platform. That is what a driver needs. A base he can trust enough to build on. A car that may still have weaknesses, but at least reacts in a way that makes sense. And at Montreal, that is everything. Canada is not a circuit where a driver can fake confidence. The track exposes doubt brutally. Heavy braking into chicanes. Curbs that unsettle the car. Walls close enough to punish hesitation. Long straights that make every exit important. If the car does not give you confidence under braking, you cannot attack Montreal properly. You start leaving margin. And in Formula One, margin is another word for lost lap time. Hamilton found enough confidence to reduce that margin. He could brake with more belief, turn in with more trust, build a lap without feeling like the car was waiting to betray him. That is why his qualifying mattered. He called it his best qualifying lap with Ferrari. He said the car responded exactly as he wanted. That sentence should be written on the wall at Maranello. The car responded, because that is what Hamilton had been missing. Not effort, not hunger, not experience, response. And once he had it, he looked like a different driver. But while Hamilton was finding his answer, the other side of the garage was collapsing into a question Ferrari cannot ignore. Charles Leclerc was living the opposite weekend. Same circuit, same team, same Ferrari badge, but not the same reality. Leclerc had brake problems from the beginning. He could not get the confidence he needed into the corners. The tires were not in the working range. The car never gave him the secure feeling required to attack. And when Leclerc does not trust a car, Ferrari has a serious problem. Because Leclerc is not a cautious driver by nature. He is one of the most naturally committed qualifiers in Formula One. He is the kind of driver who can take a difficult car and still create a lap that makes the garage go quiet. He has built his reputation on speed over one lap, on bravery, on the ability to live close to the edge. But in Canada, the edge did not feel usable. He said he was going into corners, hoping not to go straight on. That is not a small complaint. That is a driver telling you the braking phase has become a threat. And when the braking phase becomes a threat, the whole car falls apart in the driver's hands. The entry is compromised. The tire temperature becomes harder to control. The exit suffers. The confidence disappears. One issue turns into an entire weekend. That is exactly what happened. Leclerc still had flashes of speed. In qualifying, he started a lap with a purple first sector, the fastest of anyone. That proves the talent was still there. It proves the car was not completely absent underneath him. But the lap did not survive. The brake issue stayed. Traffic made things worse. The confidence never returned. He finished 8th in qualifying, while Hamilton was 5th. That gap was not just a number. It was a sign. Because for Ferrari, Leclerc being behind Hamilton in qualifying was already meaningful. But the way it happened mattered even more. Hamilton looked like the car was finally speaking clearly. Leclerc looked like the car was giving him warnings instead of grip. That is the secret of the SF26 starting to reveal itself. This car may not be simply fast or slow. It may be conditional. Fast when the driver finds the exact window. Difficult when he misses it. Competitive when the preparation matches reality. Brutal when the tools point in the wrong direction. And that kind of car can destroy a team's consistency. Because the performance exists, but it is locked behind precision. Hamilton found the key in Canada. Leclerc did not. And Sunday made the difference impossible to hide. Hamilton started 5th, stayed composed, managed his race, and waited for the moment Ferrari needed. When George Russell retired, the race opened. Ferrari reacted quickly. Hamilton stopped on lap 33, and the stop was sharp, clean, timely, exactly what he needed. Then came the most important stretch of Hamilton's Ferrari career so far. He came out behind Max Verstappen and started hunting him down. Not with panic, with control. The gap came down. The pressure increased. Hamilton got into range. And then, late in the race, he made the move for second place. That moment mattered because of who it was against. Verstappen is not an ordinary reference. Passing him is never just passing a car. Is passing one of the defining drivers of the era. Is proof that the driver making the move has confidence, grip, timing, and belief. Hamilton had all of that in Canada. And that is why the podium felt different. It did not feel like Ferrari got lucky and happened to collect a result. It felt like Hamilton had finally found a version of the SF26 he could race with. That is a huge emotional shift. He said it was the happiest day of his time at Ferrari. He said he loved the job. He said the car was great. He said he understood much better, and felt much more comfortable. Those are not empty words. Those are the words of a driver who has stopped fighting confusion, at least for one weekend. But that is exactly why Ferrari should be careful. Because Hamilton's breakthrough was not created by following the normal path. It came after he changed the path. That means the podium is not just good news. It is evidence. Evidence that the SF26 can work. Evidence that Hamilton can unlock it. Evidence that the team may have more performance than earlier weekends suggested. But also evidence that Ferrari's standard preparation may not have been finding the truth consistently. And across the garage, Leclerc's race made that evidence louder. He finished fourth, which sounds respectable until you look at the meaning behind it. He was far behind the winner, far behind Verstappen, and in the final stint, he was dramatically slower than Hamilton. That is not normal. Leclerc later described the weekend as horrible, one of the worst of his career. He said he had no confidence in the car, the tires were outside the window, and the brakes were part of the nightmare. He even said the points felt more like luck than reward. That is brutal honesty, and it tells Ferrari something important. Leclerc did not feel he had earned a strong result through performance. He felt he had survived a weekend that never gave him the tools to fight properly. That is the opposite of Hamilton's feeling. One driver felt reborn, the other felt trapped. Same car. That is why Ferrari cannot explain this away with simple driver form. It is not enough to say Hamilton had a good weekend and Leclerc had a bad one. That is true, but it is too shallow. The deeper question is why the same machine gave one driver confidence and took it away from the other. That question points straight to the heart of the car. The SF26 seems to have a narrow confidence window. When the setup, tire behavior, brake feeling, and driver preparation align, it can look like a genuine podium car. When they do not, the same car becomes hard to trust and the driver starts protecting himself instead of attacking. That is Ferrari's biggest secret. The car may be better than it looks.